From a certain perspective, one could comprehend musical sequences as a stream of notes that follows a certain order with virtually no beginning and end, and thus could potentially enter and escape more or less at any arbitrary point. Their constitution as purely diatonic structures with no particular tonal direction makes them creatures of the strangest kind to tonal harmony theory. But it's precisely this property that makes them a versatile device for modulation, as diatonism can smoothly be pushed into a certain direction. And then there's of course stuff like this. Oh! This is by far one of the most prevalent sequences, and normally one would practice and transpose it in this kind of musical sentence. Just follow the order of the sequence until you hit the 5 and attach a little additional cadence afterwards. Now I will apply a smooth modulation to the relative major. Among those diatonic 5/6 chords, there is just one that contains a diminished fifth, which makes it a first inversion dominant, implying a certain direction of key that afterwards can be confirmed by a cadence. The key change is so smooth that it's barely imperceptible. Let's give it another listen. Basically, every sequential module could potentially be evaluated as a dominant to tonic motion of every related key, whenever every 5/6 chord could be a dominant 7th when accidentals are applied onto the diatonic scaffolding. The exit module is crucial, and it will contain a soprano clause in the bass related to the key you're aiming at, which implies the dominant chord above it. Here's another example to clarify that. From D to G. That's the sequence. Here I put the leading tone on the bass, 5/6 chord becomes dominant 7th, resolves to G minor and eventually confirming by cadence. Sounds like this. Now a more concrete musical scenario. This could be the beginning of a schematic two-part invention. There's an imitative initial idea followed up by a sequential episode that leads to the dominant key, exits via 7/1, confirms per cadence, and recapitulates the initial motive in the new key in exchanged order. Concerning primary modulations in a minor piece, if you modulate to the dominant, you need to smuggle in 2 accidentals in a narrow space of time, so it's less smooth in comparison to the modulation to the relative major. So what I'm trying to sell here is a threefold procedure: sequence, exit module, and confirmation per cadence. While this looks like 3 different building blocks, the musical result will be perceived more like an overlapping stream of events, what's called elision. The rule of taking the 7/1 bassline as exit module can be applied onto most other sequences. For example, on this embellished faux-bourdon. And as well on this basic example of a tight bass. You probably noticed that the 7/1 module can as well imply other thorough bass figures above. Depending on the sequence and concrete situation, this could be the 3 following: the 5/6 chord, a 7/6 suspension, or a 6th chord. From a harmony theory perspective, all of them being functional equivalents of a dominant chord. That very last example I showed you naturally offers another approach to exit. The basic diatonic scaffolding is as well open for multiple alterations that could indicate a certain tonal direction, as every 4/2 chord in this manner could be turned into a third inversion dominant 7th, which makes exiting easy, and the following example is quite representative. Raising B flat to B natural doesn't just make it the dominant 7th of C minor, it offers the opportunity of diving directly into the double cadence. Such an overlapping combination of schematic building blocks can be seen as a key operation in Baroque counterpoint. Anyway, from this kind of sequence evolved a romantic chromatic successor that has been very popular especially in the first half of the 19th century. Despite showing the exact thorough-bass figures like its diatonic ancestor, this sequence implies a constant tonal shift due to its constant chromaticism. Escaping this sequence is really a no-brainer, as you literally can reiterate as often as you want until you hit a key that you want to glue a cadence on. But depending on when you decide to leave, your decision easily can lead you to remote keys. Example. I want to show you a special kind of modulation that's super sweet, and that's as well drawn from the same sequence. It's about a little Easter egg when exiting, and all this in the manner of a little waltz. That's actually quite a distance, right? And now the chords just in slow motion that everybody can follow up. I think I've seen tritone modulations in original pieces being repeated from the point of destination. Okay, then let's give it a try. And now a kind of sequence that I borrowed from Chopin. What looks just horrible on the paper is in many cases an invention that emerged from keyboard and fingers. Some probably wouldn't even call this a sequence, as it is a parallel motion of first inversion dominant 7th chords with a suspension chain applied. Exiting is very easy as well, as every dominant 7th chord can directly be resolved into a major or minor tonic. In other words, it suggests an exit strategy that I explained with all the Baroque examples in the beginning. Here's an example modulating from D minor to B minor. Above chromatic bass lines, there is a common progression where a first inversion dominant 7th resolves into a third inversion dominant 7th. Applied to this kind of sequence, this means that I can as well apply the 4/3 exit module instead and add a 4/5/1 right after that. Final example.
you.